What is up, everyone? Welcome to round 3 of War of the Roses 2024. As you can see on the screen, we are playing Pacific Old School here today, and we've got some really cool deck lists. So without further ado, let's jump in. First up, we have Andrew on a very classic powered Land's Edge deck. Red-white aggro with an endgame of Land's Edge and Land's Tax to burn your opponent out by discarding a bunch of land. The deck also has a bit of a lockdown with Blood Moon and Black Vice, trying to burn your opponent out that way as long as they're not able to play anything from their hand. There are also 4 ATOGs to take advantage of all of those mana rocks once you don't really need the ramp anymore, or you're just swinging for the win. And the sideboard, I feel like, is pretty classic. Lots of disenchants to get rid of all of those artifacts on your opponent's side, and the library to help with the more grindy games. Moving on to his opponent, there is a heavily altered list here by Jordan, which is super cool to see. Very cool art here. I'm hoping I don't miss anything, but I'm pretty sure this is just a variation on the deck and has win cons through the 4 of Underworld Dreams in the main and the factories. Pestilence plus Wall of Swords means you can also ping in a lot of damage and take care of lower power creature decks and more aggressive decks, and also can just be a win con on its own. Sideboard seems pretty straightforward, just adding some more walls and more Pestilence for those alternate win cons and ways to clean up small creatures again, like I mentioned. Overall, very excited to see how this plays out. So without further ado, let's get into the games. And here we are, Andrew on the left versus Jordan on the right. It looks like Jordan's gonna take the play here, which might benefit him. He does have Dark Rituals, can get a pretty crazy start if needed. The player's having a discussion off screen with someone, it looks like. Speaking of Dark Ritual, I do see one in Jordan's hand. I do see, oh, okay, looks like Disenchant, Lands, Tax, and just a bunch of lands for Andrew. And a Mox. He does have a Mox start, which is good. Jordan thinking here on what exactly he wants to do. Maybe even deciding if he's keeping a 7. Alright, looks like we're good to go. Just gonna play out a factory and go. Not sure if he had a good target for that Dark Ritual, which is maybe why he held off. But there is something to be said for... Actually, he might even have a hymn. Maybe he even has 2 hymns. There's definitely something to be said for hymning on turn 1, potentially disrupting your opponent's mana. Ooh, that's a good play. I don't remember exactly what this card is. It's from Legends, I believe, and it's just tap down target artifact. So that is an answer to the factory. Okay, we got Dark Ritual happening now. Gonna hymn. And as I was saying, I think there is definitely something to be said for hymning on turn 1. Potentially hitting those Moxen and power. Alright, looks like we're gonna hit that. Hitting the plateau. And the Lands Tax, which I think is huge. And just gonna try and swing in for 1 and tap the artifact down. Preferably before combat, which is what I'm assuming Andrew is saying. Before attacks, tap it down. Does have to be given the time to respond to that for sure. Also has a disenchant in hand too, and has the mana to play it now. I think he has a wheel as well, so maybe looking to wheel pretty soon. Nope, gonna play out an orb. Gonna use the orb and gonna target the Underground Sea. We're gonna get an orb flip here. And it is good. All right. Orb flips on camera. Gotta be daunting, right? We're just gonna pass back to Jordan. Another Dark Ritual. Does have a swamp, so he can play it out, but I don't know if you want to do that just for another hymn. I mean, your opponent does have only 2 cards in hand. And knowing that one of them is a wheel, I think you definitely would. But can definitely be a little mana inefficient. Alright, he's gonna play up the swamp. Tap 2 for a Howling Mine. Okay. And it's just gonna pass. Andrew benefiting from the draw first. Does draw another land tax. Just considering playing it out here. I feel like you are sitting pretty good at lands. Your opponent most likely needs to play out at least one more black source. Or blue. You did see the Underground Sea, so you know that they're at least a 2-color deck. To what level, you're not entirely sure yet.
And then you would go to your upkeep, and then you'd be in your draw step. I could tap that down during your upkeep, correct?
Yes.
And you would draw.
Andrew, I think, also mentioning that maybe he can even tap down his opponent's Howling Mine with his artifact to prevent him from getting benefit. And yep, on your upkeep, tap that down. No additional card draw for you. Which is a shame, but Jordan did just draw Underworld Dreams. I think you have to take out the planes here. Yep. Now that ritual becomes a lot better. It's a good thing he did save it. A ritual here into an Underworld Dreams, and suddenly all that extra card draw is not the best. And Andrew, unfortunately, does not have a white source, but does get a bunch of lands, so can fix that pretty quick.
Yeah, you probably should be a strip.
Jordan just giving a little read here. Gonna find a couple of plains and one more mountain.
No, it does not. That would be brutal. That would be opting.
Probably just double checking that it wasn't a draw trigger, which I don't believe it is. I believe it's just placed in your hand. But he will get 2 points of damage here.
We're checking though, right? You know.
Or at least 1 point, sorry. The Howling Mine does not benefit him this turn. Take a point. Ooh, and a lion coming down too. But I think... Do you go for the lion here, knowing you still have a way to deal with that Underworld Dreams? And just try and push more damage through next turn, or do you just take care of it now? I think you play out the threat and try and get more damage through next turn. Not worrying so much about getting pinged for 1. Your opponent could have a wheel. That is true. You could take 7 off of that. That is a risk. And it looks like it is gonna opt to just play out the threat, which I think is correct. Alright, and pass to Jordan. That untaps, but only for a second. And that's probably what that land will be used for or that artifact will be used for the remaining portion of the game until it goes away. And Jordan's just gonna pass. Take a point. Drop to 18. And now there is a clock on battlefield and a second disenchant. Now you really don't have to worry about it if you don't want to. Can even play out a land after this and hold up a second disenchant for something else. Obviously, I think you want to swing in first with the lion here, right? And then see if they animate the factory. Do you just tap down the factory here? I don't know. Well, okay. Yeah, tap down the factory. Get in for 2. Can no longer untap the Howling Mine. But you just disenchant the Howling Mine?
Disenchant that.
Okay, just disenchant the Underworld Dreams. And I think, wondering if you just hit the disenchant again. Yep, just gonna hold up the mana for it, but not gonna cast it this turn. Seems like.
It did. You're right. Yes, you're right. You did. Yeah.
Oh, okay, not playing the mana out. And pass. Jordan finally getting to draw off of his own Howling Mine 3 turns later. Draws, I think, what was a second Howling Mine and another Dark Ritual. These Dark Rituals coming in clutch to prevent him having to play out even more lands and trigger even more land tax effects. We're gonna him. 1 floating. Ooh, and hits the disenchant. That is huge. And the wheel. Oh no. That is a big problem, I think, for Andrew. I didn't know. Did he just have lands left in his hand? Alright, we're animating the factory. Swinging in. You have no way to stop it now. Take 2. Alright. Untap. Andrew now getting the benefit of the Howling Mine. Hopefully remembering to. There we go. And unfortunately, I think just flooding out here. Does he have all lands in hand? That makes sense. Oh, we're just gonna swing in for 2. Down to 16 all. And is gonna play a land out. So giving Jordan the space to finally get that double black if he has it.
Did you draw from mine, actually?
Jordan asking if you are going to trigger your artifact, prevent me from getting benefit of the Howling Mine. And yep, going to do that. That makes sense. Putting your opponent off a card draw is pretty good. Jordan seeing a second Howling Mine. It was a second Howling Mine, and drew the swords as well. Has not seen any white mana this game so far. So Andrew has no reason to expect a swords yet. He might play a little more aggressively because of it. Did he draw an ATOG? I think he might have. And is just going to play out a bunch of lands here. Andrew, I think, correctly realizing that he is definitely the aggressor here. And that land tax is probably not going to trigger anytime soon. And is just going to pass, tap down one of the mines. Only a draw 2. Second factory hits. And I believe Andrew's land is still, or hand is still just all lands. Or does he have a bolt? Oh, he does have a bolt. Okay, we are going to bolt one of the factories at least. And untap, draw. Yeah, the card I thought was the ATOG must have been the bolt. I'll be able to see a tiny corner of it. And it seems like Andrew's finally drawn some action. First, just gonna go to combat, swing for 2. Play out a factory of his own. And let's Winds of Change. So Andrew will be drawing 3, right? Or 4. And Jordan, I think, is only drawing a couple here. Either way, good play for Andrew to refill his hand with some more action instead of all the lands he's been drawing. And also gives Jordan a chance, I think, to find Another Underworld Dreams. Oh, that is a Ivory Tower and a Swords, and I can't tell what his third card is. And unfortunately, it looks like Andrew might have flooded out a little more here too. Oh no, I think he has a Lightning Bolt at least, so it can potentially get that last factory. Jordan drawn a Lotus.
Play a factory.
Can play out the factory. No real reason to play out that Lotus, I don't think, unless you really want to have access to white, which I don't think matters here. Jordan's gonna wait. Oh, is gonna pump. Okay. And I think this factory is just getting bolted again. I feel like it has to. Yep. Already kind of gave away the trick. Tapping one red, so there you go. Is that a balance for Andrew? Not exactly what you want to see in this spot, but better to be ahead and not needing a balance than behind and never seeing it. There's another Savannah Lions, so some more threats. Keep in mind, Jordan does have 2 Pestilence main and some Wall of Swords, so definitely has ways to deal with these small creatures, but doesn't have them currently. It's going to take 4, drop to 8. Let's play out one more lion. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a good idea. Really trying to shut the gate here, honestly. Alright, tap down one of the mines. And getting a plains, at least I'm pretty sure that's what that is. An art is proof. Play out the Ivory Tower. And I'm not sure what the signed card that he has in hand. That might be a disenchant. I'm not entirely positive. Ooh, did Andrew just draw a burn spell? I don't think so. Tapping his mana very carefully here, though. Alright. There's a factory as a blocker. And we know that Jordan does have a swords. Opting not to use it, though. Interesting. Alright, 2 for the disenchant. Gets 6 through. Drop to 2, and is there a bolt? Did I read that correctly? Or have they all been used up? Or is that a Winds of Change? That's a Winds of Change. That might as well be a bolt with that mountain, or a shock at least, and that's gonna be game number 1 going to Andrew. That was a very grindy game, but Andrew keeping that Land's Edge until the last possible moment it would be relevant, and it was. I'm not sure if Jordan animated the factory on opting to trade with a, what I'm assuming was a swords in hand, was the best call. I think maybe swordsing the factory might have been a better option. Either way, though, he will be taking the play this turn. And does have a ritual start, but does he have anything worth ritualing into? And it doesn't look like it, so Jordan's going to pass. I imagine more Pestilence came in, which might be a problem for Andrew because it looks like he does have 2 lions. And is looking to have a very aggressive start here. Alright, 2 mana for a mine. Playing out a Mox as well. does have a white card in hand. Is it a swords or is it a disenchant?
It's an artifact card that he did not.
Alright, can untap, draw 2.
That's alright though. That's freaking still awesome.
He always asks me, like, is it a box? Like, no. Like,
Or not draw 2.
you know,
That would have been like
the 90s.
He might have taken both off the top in the same motion. No, okay, did just forget. Does draw that tap down artifact again, which was pretty impressive, I think, actually, in game 1. So does it come out again? He also just has disenchant or divine offering, whatever the other one is that they gain life. Maybe not the thing you want to do with an aggressive deck, but you could hit the Mox. Alright, go to combat, swing for 2. And that was a swords. Alright. And I wonder if at this point you do just disenchant the mine. Yep, or whatever the other one is. Gain a little bit of life off that one. Up to a healthy 24. Jordan playing out the mine and just passing. Has a lot of mana. Hasn't done much with it yet. Andrew looking at a lands tax. And is down on land. Does he have anything that's worth doing that is better than getting some lands out of his deck? Looks like, at the very least, he's got a lion that we did see in his opening. That sounds like it's going to resolve. No, and he's going to play out a land instead. Tap 2 and play out that artifact that I should really look up the name of. Know what it does. Again, tap it, tap down target artifact. Great for these mines, great for hitting the factories as well. Great for winter orbs too, but I don't think those are going to be making an appearance. Alright, a strip coming down, hitting the factory. Got a dark ritual here. 4 floating. For pestilence. Uh-oh. And that gonna be a problem, I think. And you're thinking if he wants to spend the mana first, he's going to play out a land tax. I almost wonder if you swing in with the lion first, just to see. Because you're holding up a little bit more answers, potentially. You are still threatening Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt did kill 2 factories last game. So I think he's counting on that memory for Jordan. Asking him, do you think I have it a 3rd time? In a completely different game. And Jordan, I think, having to answer this. Or can just Pestilence. One of the weird things about Pestilence and Mishra's Factory is you can actually animate the factory in your end step. Or at the end of your turn. Before the Pestilence trigger. You can also just do it in your main phase, which is probably what's going to happen here with the unspent mana. And the Pestilence trigger and the Mishra's Factory trigger can be stacked or interacted in a way with that the Pestilence recognizes the factory. I think that's what's being explained here. Is that as long as you have a factory that has been animated this turn and stuck around for the check, that pestilence will stay, which is a fun little interaction.
You got a card to get, so I'll pass.
I'm sure I butchered the explanation of that, but basically, pestilence helps keep your, or factory helps keep your pestilence around. All right, Andrew is just going to pass here, and probably should have had him go through the motions of actually animating the factory in his end step as well. If Andrew had done that, he could have had the factory get tapped down. I guess really wouldn't have mattered that much. Never mind. Well, factory is just going to get in there for 2 and finally dropping Andrew down to a reasonable 20 life. But now we're going to get the land tax trigger. Getting some red mana. A little bit of white just in case too. Definitely one of the benefits of land tax is getting all those basics out of your deck, making room for the good draws. And was one of those a good draw? No, it was another land. I don't think there's a Land's Edge, which is the second part of this deck. Being able to pitch a land to deal 2 is very good. He does have an orb though, and is thinking about using it, which I think does make sense, but is first just gonna Lola. Or Lola or whatever. Gets another land tax. And is gonna play it out, surprisingly. Okay. Gets double triggers if Jordan plays a 4th land. I doubt Jordan will play a 4th land, but if he does, I'm assuming Andrew is going to get the remaining basics out of his deck. Usually, Land's Edge, Land's Tax decks stay at 2 colors. Okay, we're going to animate the factory, tap down the factory. Factory is still a land. By the end of his turn, Pestilence sticks around. Ooh, and did he just draw a Land's Edge? I think he did. Counting it out here. I think I'm gonna activate the Loa. Or deciding if he can. I think you have to, yeah. Nope, not activating it. Let's not have it add 7. Alright, now it has 7, okay. Draw the Vice, which is not great. Counting number of lands, I think he has 4 right now, so 8 total damage. Alright, there's an orb. Yep, okay. Mentioning he's paying for the factory. Pestilence does check on both players' end steps. So very important that Jordan keeps up at least 1 mana to keep doing that as long as factory is on the field. It does open him up to getting the land blown up though by Andrew, if there is ever a lightning bolt or anything like that in his hand. Alright, Jordan gonna play out Mox.
That's really cool.
The Lotus is Sierra Rush is one I saw on that. I thought it was really cool. It matches the rest of them. But yeah. Weird relic. I will activate the
And yep, it's just going to animate the factory, try to attack in. It gets tapped down. This is going to be a repetitive thing that continues to happen, but needs to happen from both players. Has another land. So I believe low is active again. And it's good that he does have that because he's not seeing a land tax trigger anytime soon. Alright, can play out the land's edge. Does he have 6? I think he might have 6. Draw card. Blood Moon. That's a good card. Very good card right now. Take your opponent completely off of blue. Make sure that factory can't animate and the Pestilence would die. Instead, we're just going to pitch a land, shoot 2 at you, and pass. And Jordan, I think, given this read, making sure it can't target creatures. I don't believe it can. And yep, just remembering to tap down a mana for your factory. It is definitely an annoying trigger to have to keep remembering, but it is important, especially against Andrew's deck where you know there are so many aggressive small creatures that the Pestilence just deals with very easily. It's also just a good potential win con if you're up on life, which I think is what's happening here. He is activating the Pestilence a couple of times, which we know may not be the best plan with the number of lands in Andrew's hand, him giving it just a little count there. And it's either 6 or 10. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, he needs 1 more land or 2 to have lethal just through Land's Edge. Alright. Jordan gonna go through the motions again. Seemingly not drawing anything good, which is unfortunate. And that is another land, so if Andrew does have 6 already, that is the 7th, which is the magic number 14. So here we go, 2. Activate the Loa. That is not a land, unfortunately. But it does take care of the Pestilence, which honestly at this point I think is a bit of a non-issue. He can hold it up though for next turn, or for the end of this turn I should say, to take care of the land when it does get animated, assuming there is no counter magic from Jordan. And maybe considering playing out the Blood Moon instead to really lock the opponent down. And no, it's just going to pass. And on that end step activation, we are going to get rid of that library. The question here, though, is I think that the Pestilence, or that library, that factory, get rid of the factory. The question, though, is I think the Pestilence still dies. Pretty sure, but we'll never actually get to find out. Jordan does find another factory. Oh, Andrew asking about that, actually. If that dies when you check, this might be a judge call, but I think it still dies, because if you're activating it before the Pestilence trigger is on the stack, yeah, I think that's correct. So the Pestilence is gone. Not that it's going to make much difference because Andrew has no creatures in hand, but there is also no way to damage. Ooh, that is, I think, the last land he needed. I think he just has lethal now. Ping you for 2. Activate the library. 8 dog. Okay, so he did draw a creature. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That is lethal. And Andrew, I think, is going to take it down. No response from Jordan. That is going to be game number 2. And Land's Edge wins both game 1 and game 2. Incredible gameplay by both players. Congrats again to Andrew winning with the Land's Edge Land's Tax deck. Super cool to see. If you guys have been enjoying the content, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any more old school. This is only round 3 of 6. There is no cut to top 8 or anything like that. We just did a top Swiss best of 6. If you're here for the pre-modern content, don't worry, that is coming every week as well. Still, we're still working through a big backlog of previous Portland Monthly Pre-Modern Paper Magic afternoon tournaments, and there's another one on the horizon too, so plenty of that coming your way. If you've liked, subscribed, and done everything else in your power, and you want to support the channel more, you've liked what I've been doing and want to help with gear upgrades and potentially travel, there is a Patreon link down below in the description that we're just treating as a bit of a tip jar right now. Eventually rewards will come, but if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to check that out. And yeah, thank you to everyone for watching, and I will see you next time.